The SC Blueshift drifted through the cosmic darkness like a ghost ship, her hull's adaptive camouflage rendering her nearly invisible against the star-scattered void. Captain Lysander Voss stood on the bridge, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he watched the tactical display show empty space where he knew 3 Zephyrian battle cruisers prowled just beyond sensor range. The silence that had given his ship her nickname felt heavier than usual tonight. "Captain," whispered navigator Zara Katri, her voice barely audible even in the hushed atmosphere of the bridge. Her fingers danced across the holographic star charts with practiced precision. "We're approaching the Kepler threshold. Once we cross, we'll be deep in Covenant territory with no hope of reinforcement for 72 hours. Voss nodded, his steel-gray eyes never leaving the display. The Great War of Orion's Edge had raged for 3 years now, pitting humanity against the Zephyrian Covenant, alliance of 6 alien species united in their belief that humans were an aggressive cancer that needed excision from the galaxy. What they hadn't counted on was humanity's talent for asymmetric warfare. While the Covenant commanded superior numbers and firepower, humans had learned to strike from the shadows. The Blueshift represented the pinnacle of that philosophy. Built in the hidden shipyards of Europa, she was humanity's first true stealth warship, a vessel designed not for glory, but for the kind of warfare that happened in whispers and ended in silence. Her crew of 47 had volunteered for missions that officially didn't exist, operations that would never be commemorated in history books. "Weapons status, Thorn?" Voss asked his weapons officer, a broad-shouldered man whose ancestors had sailed Viking longships through Earth's frozen seas. Thorn Eriksson's scarred hands moved across his console with surprising gentleness. "All systems nominal, Captain. Quantum torpedoes loaded and ready. The new stealth warheads are performing within parameters, the Covenant won't know what hit them until it's too late." In the engineering section 3 decks below, Chief Engineer Mikhail Petrov monitored the ship's revolutionary dark matter drive, the technology that made their ghost-like movements possible. The drive bent spacetime around the ship, creating a pocket of twisted reality that sensors couldn't penetrate. It was beautiful, elegant, and absolutely terrifying in its implications. Communications Officer Naya Chen sat at her station, monitoring the encrypted burst transmissions from Earth Command. The messages came in fragments, each one painting a grimmer picture of the war's progress. The Covenant had taken Proxima Centauri last month. New Shanghai colony had gone dark 2 weeks ago. Humanity was losing this war, one star system at a time. Dr. Ilara Vasquez, the ship's science officer, studied the intelligence reports with growing unease. Their mission target, the Covenant's forward supply depot at Rigel 7, was more heavily defended than initial reconnaissance had suggested. The facility didn't just store ammunition and fuel, it housed something the Covenant considered valuable enough to guard with an entire battle fleet. Security Chief Kofi Asante moved through the ship's corridors like a prowling cat, checking on his teams and ensuring that every system was ready for what was to come. Born in the orbital colonies above Ghana, he had learned early that survival often depended on knowing when to fight and when to fade into the shadows. Tonight, they would do both. As the Blueshift crossed the Kepler threshold, Voss felt the familiar weight of command settle on his shoulders. Behind them lay the last outpost of human civilization in this sector. Ahead lay enemy territory and a mission that could change the course of the war, or see them all die forgotten in the darkness between stars. The irony wasn't lost on him that humanity's greatest weapon in this war was their ability to become invisible, to strike without warning, to embody the very silence that had once terrified their ancestors in the depths of Earth's primordial nights. The bridge lights dimmed to their lowest setting as the ship entered full stealth mode. In the darkness, Voss's crew worked with the quiet efficiency of ghosts, preparing to bring death to their enemies while remaining unseen themselves. The Blueshift slipped deeper into Covenant space, navigating between patrol routes that Zara Katri had memorized down to the second. Her dark eyes tracked multiple vectors simultaneously, calculating intercept courses and escape routes with the kind of mathematical intuition that had made her legendary among Earth's navigator corps. The ship moved like liquid shadow through the void, each course correction timed to perfection. "Contact," whispered Nia Chen, her voice cutting through the bridge's cathedral silence. "Zephyrian destroyer, bearing 27 Mark 15. She's running a standard sweep pattern, but she's moving this way." Voss felt his pulse quicken but kept his expression neutral. The Zephyrians were the Covenant's most dangerous members, a species of crystalline beings whose ships could detect gravitational anomalies that would reveal most cloaked vessels. The Blueshift's dark matter drive was theoretically undetectable, but theory had a way of failing when lives hung in the balance. Thorne's hands hovered over his weapons console, ready to drop the ship's stealth field and engage if discovered. His pale blue eyes tracked the approaching destroyer on his tactical display, noting its weapon configurations and shield harmonics. The Zephyrian ship was smaller than the Blueshift, but it carried plasma lances that could cut through human armor like tissue paper. 3 decks below, Mikhail Petrov watched his exotic matter containment fields with the intensity of a man performing surgery on a nuclear reactor. The dark matter drive required perfect balance, too much power and they'd create a gravitational distortion visible to every sensor in the system, too little and the stealth field would collapse entirely. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air cycling through engineering. The Zephyrian destroyer passed within 2,000 kilometers of their position, close enough that they could see the crystalline formations that served as its sensor arrays. The alien ship pulsed with inner light, its hull faceted like a massive gemstone that caught and reflected the distant starlight. For a moment that stretched into eternity, the two ships shared the same small volume of space, predator and prey existing in quantum superposition. Dr. Ilara Vasquez held her breath as she watched the alien ship scanning pattern wash over their position. Her scientific mind marveled at the Zephyrian technology even as her human instincts screamed warnings. The destroyer's bioneural networks processed information in ways that human computers couldn't match, looking for patterns in spacetime itself. Kofi Asante had positioned himself at the security station, ready to coordinate defensive measures if their cover was blown. His teams were already at battle stations, though they moved with the silent efficiency that had become second nature aboard the Blueshift. Every sound was muffled, every movement deliberate and controlled. The destroyer continued on its patrol route, apparently oblivious to their presence. Voss allowed himself a small smile as the alien ship dwindled to a distant point of light. The dark matter drive had held, and they remained unseen. But he knew their luck wouldn't hold forever. The deeper they penetrated into Covenant territory, the more patrols they would encounter. "Captain," Ilara said quietly, studying the intelligence data streaming across her console. "I'm detecting some unusual readings from the Rigel 7 facility. The electromagnetic signature doesn't match a standard supply depot. There's something else there, something that's generating massive amounts of exotic radiation." Voss frowned, moving to stand behind her station. The scientist's concerns had proved invaluable during their previous missions, her ability to spot anomalies often meaning the difference between success and catastrophe. "What kind of radiation?" "I'm not sure," Ilara admitted, her fingers working to refine the sensor data. "It's unlike anything in our databases. The pattern suggests some kind of quantum manipulation on a scale I've never seen before. Captain, I don't think Rigel 7 is just a supply depot. I think it's a research facility." The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Research facilities meant scientists, civilians, potentially thousands of non-combatants. But they also meant weapons development, new technologies that could tip the balance of the war even further against humanity. Voss had his orders, but he also had his conscience, and the two were about to come into direct conflict. Zara's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, we're approaching the outer detection grid. Once we cross this line, we'll be committed to the mission. The Covenant will have sensor platforms and automated defense systems throughout the system." Voss looked around his bridge, at the faces of men and women who had followed him into the darkness time and again. They trusted him to bring them home, but they also trusted him to do what was necessary to protect humanity. The weight of both responsibilities settled on his shoulders like a lead cloak. "Take us in," he ordered quietly. Silent running, full stealth protocols. Whatever's waiting for us at Rigel 7, we're going to find out. The Rigel system unfolded before them like a deadly flower, its 7 planets arranged in a complex dance around a binary star that painted the void in shades of amber and crimson. The Blueshift moved through the outer system with ghost-like grace, her sensors mapping the defensive positions that surrounded their target. What they found made Voss's blood run cold. "Jesus Christ," Thorne whispered, his usual stoicism cracking as the tactical display populated with contacts. "Captain, I'm reading 47 Covenant vessels in system. This isn't a supply depot, it's a fortress." Zara's fingers flew across her navigation console, plotting courses between the patrol patterns and defensive grids. The mathematics were staggering. They would need to thread the needle between detection zones while avoiding 3 separate species sensor technologies. The margin for error was measured in meters, and a single miscalculation would see them vaporized before they could even fight back. Dr. Ilara Vasquez had gone pale as her sensors penetrated deeper into the system. The exotic radiation signatures were stronger now, coming from multiple sources across Rigel 7's surface. Whatever the Covenant was building here, it was massive, and it was nearing completion. "Captain," she said, her voice tight with suppressed fear. "I'm detecting quantum displacement patterns consistent with dimensional manipulation. The energy levels they're beyond anything we thought possible. If they're building what I think they're building." "What?" Voss demanded, moving to her station. Ilara's hands shook as she refined her calculations. "A dimensional portal generator. They could open gateways anywhere in the galaxy, bypass our defenses entirely. Captain, they could strike directly at Earth without warning." The bridge fell silent except for the subtle hum of the ship's systems. The implications were staggering. If the Covenant completed their weapon, the war would be over before humanity could mount any meaningful defense. Earth's orbital defenses, her fleet positions, even the secret bases in the outer systems would be meaningless against an enemy that could appear anywhere without warning. Mikhail's voice crackled over the comm from engineering. "Captain, I'm detecting some kind of interference with our stealth field. The exotic radiation from the planet is causing quantum fluctuations in our dark matter envelope. We can maintain stealth, but it's going to drain our power reserves faster than anticipated." Naya Chen's board lit up with intercepts from Covenant communications. The aliens were using quantum-encrypted channels, but human codebreakers had made some progress against their security protocols. What she heard made her stomach clench with dread. "Captain," she reported quietly. "I'm picking up transmissions about a test firing scheduled for tomorrow. They're calling it the final verification of the Gateway Matrix. Sir, I think they're almost ready to deploy this thing." Voss stared at the tactical display, watching the swarm of enemy vessels patrolling around their target. The original mission had been to destroy a supply depot and escape. But this changed everything. If they failed here, if the Covenant completed their dimensional weapon, the war would be lost. But the defenses were simply too strong for a single ship to penetrate. "Sir," Kofi Asante said from his security station, "my teams are ready for whatever you decide. But if we're going to act, we need to do it soon. The longer we stay in system, the greater the chance of detection." Thorne checked his weapons loadout one more time. "Captain, even with all our quantum torpedoes, I'm not sure we can punch through those defenses. We'd need a miracle to reach the surface intact." "Or a distraction," Voss said quietly, a plan beginning to form in his mind. It was desperate, probably suicidal, but it was the only option that offered even a remote chance of success. "Zara, plot a course to the system's asteroid belt. We're going to send the Covenant a message they won't be able to ignore." As the Blueshift changed course, moving toward the debris field that ringed Rigel's 4th planet, Voss began outlining his plan. It would require perfect timing, incredible luck, and sacrifices that made his heart ache to contemplate. But if they could destroy the dimensional portal generator, if they could prevent the Covenant from deploying their ultimate weapon, then perhaps those sacrifices would mean something. The ship moved deeper into enemy territory, carrying with her the hopes of a species fighting for its very survival. In the darkness between stars, ghosts prepared to become angels of destruction, ready to pay any price to ensure that humanity would see another dawn. The asteroid belt around Rigel 4 stretched for millions of kilometers, a chaotic maze of rock and ice that had been forming since the system's birth. The Blueshift moved through this debris field like a predator selecting its prey, her sensors cataloging the composition and trajectory of each potential weapon. Voss's plan was audacious in its simplicity, and terrifying in its implications. There, Zara pointed to a massive asteroid on her display, her voice tight with concentration. Designation Alpha 7. Mass approximately 4 million tons, high metal content, and it's on a trajectory that will take it past Rigel 7 in 18 hours. Thorne studied the tactical implications, his scarred hands working across multiple displays. If we could attach our remaining fusion charges to that rock and give it a velocity boost, we could turn it into a kinetic impactor. The Covenant would have to deploy significant forces to intercept it. Exactly, Voss said grimly. While they're focused on stopping an asteroid impact, we slip past their defenses and hit the research facility. It's a distraction and a genuine threat rolled into one. Dr. Ilara Vasquez looked up from her console, her face pale in the bridge's dim lighting. Captain, I've been analyzing the facility's quantum signatures more carefully. The dimensional portal isn't just a weapon, it's a transportation network. If they complete it, they could move entire fleets instantly across the galaxy. The strategic implications are beyond catastrophic. Mikhail's voice crackled over the comm system, strain evident even through the electronic filter. Captain, I've run the calculations on the asteroid deflection. We'll need to expend nearly all our remaining antimatter reserves to generate enough thrust. After that, we'll be running on emergency power only. The weight of the decision pressed down on Voss like a physical force. They were already deep in enemy territory with no hope of reinforcement. If they committed their remaining power to this desperate gambit, there would be no retreat, no second chances. Success or death, there were no other options. Nia Chen's console chimed softly as new intelligence data streamed in from their passive sensors. Captain, I'm detecting increased activity around the research facility. It looks like they're accelerating their timeline. The test firing has been moved up, they're going to activate the portal in 6 hours. 6 hours. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Even if everything went perfectly, even if the asteroid distraction worked and they somehow penetrated the facility's defenses, they would have barely enough time to identify and destroy the portal generator. Kofi Asante reviewed the security protocols for what would essentially be a suicide mission. His teams were the best in the fleet, volunteers who had signed up knowing they might be called upon to pay the ultimate price. But knowing and accepting were two different things, and he could see the weight of realization settling on their faces. Captain, Thorne said quietly, there's something else to consider. The quantum torpedoes we're carrying, they're not just conventional weapons. The new stealth warheads use exotic matter charges. If we detonate them near a dimensional portal generator, the quantum cascade could tear a hole in spacetime itself, Ilara finished, her scientific mind grasping the implications immediately. We're not just talking about destroying the facility, we could create a localized singularity. The gravitational effects could consume the entire planet. Voss closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of potential genocide on his shoulders. Rigel 7 wasn't just a military installation, intelligence suggested it housed over 2 million Covenant civilians in supporting cities. But if the portal generator came online, if the Covenant gained the ability to strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning, billions of humans would die. The needs of the many, he whispered to himself, the old philosophical axiom offering cold comfort in the face of impossible choices. Sir? Zara asked, having caught his words. Nothing, Voss replied, straightening his shoulders. We proceed with the mission. Thorne, begin preparations for the asteroid deflection. Mikhail, I want every spare joule of power diverted to the dark matter drive, we're going to need maximum stealth capability for the final approach." As his crew began implementing the desperate plan, Voss stared out at the stars and wondered if this was how wars were really won, not with glorious charges or heroic last stands, but with impossible choices made by ordinary people in the darkness between worlds. The Blueshift had been designed to fight a war that couldn't be won through conventional means, and now she would test the limits of what humanity was willing to sacrifice for survival. The asteroid loomed ahead of them, a 4-million-ton bullet waiting to be fired at the heart of enemy territory. In 6 hours, the fate of the galaxy would be decided by 47 humans aboard a ship that officially didn't exist, fighting a battle that would never be recorded in the history books. The asteroid Alpha 7 tumbled through space with the dignity of a mountain, its metallic surface scarred by eons of cosmic bombardment. The Blueshift had attached her fusion charges to its trailing edge like deadly barnacles, each one programmed to detonate in perfect sequence. Mikhail Petrov worked frantically in the ship's engineering bay, rerouting power from life support systems to feed the massive energy requirements of their improvised kinetic weapon. "Detonation in 30 seconds, Thorn announced, his fingers poised over the firing controls. The asteroid would need a velocity increase of precisely 847 meters per second to reach Rigel 7 on the optimal trajectory. Too little thrust and it would miss the planet entirely, too much and it would arrive too early, before the Blueshift could exploit the distraction. Voss watched the countdown timer with the intensity of a man calculating the trajectory of his own soul. Around Rigel 7, the Covenant Defense Fleet maintained its patrol patterns, oblivious to the 4-million-ton projectile bearing down on them at 30 kilometers per second. In 4 hours and 17 minutes, that rock would punch through the planet's atmosphere with the force of a nuclear weapon. "Mark," Thorn said quietly, and pressed the detonation key. Space lit up with the brilliance of a newborn star as 16 fusion charges fired in perfect sequence. The asteroid shuddered, its ancient rotation changing as tremendous forces pushed it onto a new heading. The Blueshift, positioned safely behind the massive rock, rode the shockwave like a surfer catching a cosmic tsunami. "Clean detonation," Mikhail reported, satisfaction evident in his voice despite the dire circumstances. "Alpha 7 is on course and accelerating. Impact in 4 hours, 12 minutes. Dr. Ilara Vasquez monitored the exotic radiation signatures from Rigel 7, her instruments detecting a sudden spike in quantum activity. "Captain, they're beginning the portal activation sequence. The dimensional field generators are coming online across the planet's surface." Naya Chen's communications array crackled with intercepted Covenant transmissions as the aliens coordinated their portal test. The linguistic analysis protocols struggled to keep up with the rapid-fire exchanges between different species, but the overall meaning was clear: they were racing to complete the activation before something unspecified could interfere. "Sir," Zara called out, her voice tight with concern, "I'm detecting course changes in the Covenant patrol fleets. They're repositioning to cover potential approach vectors to the research facility. It's almost like they know we're coming." Voss felt ice form in his stomach. If their stealth had been compromised, if the Covenant had detected their presence somehow, then they were flying directly into a trap. But they were committed now, the asteroid was already on its way, and there was no turning back from their mission. Kofi Asante appeared on the bridge, his usual calm demeanor marked by an undercurrent of tension. "Captain, my teams are ready for close-quarters combat. If we manage to reach the facility, we'll need to move fast. My estimates suggest we'll have maybe 10 minutes before Covenant reinforcements overwhelm our position. 10 minutes to locate and destroy a dimensional portal generator that represented the culmination of alien science. 10 minutes to prevent a weapon that could end humanity's resistance in a single stroke." The mathematics were absurd, but mathematics had never stopped human beings from attempting the impossible. Thorn studied his weapons display, counting and recounting their remaining armaments. After the asteroid deflection, they had 12 quantum torpedoes, a handful of conventional missiles, and the Blueshift's twin plasma cannon arrays. Against a fortified research facility defended by the combined military might of 6 alien species, it seemed pitifully inadequate. "Captain," Ilara said urgently, the portal's dimensional matrix is stabilizing faster than my models predicted. They're not just testing the system, they're preparing to bring something through. Something massive. How massive? Voss demanded. The energy signatures suggest a structure approximately 12 kilometers in length. Captain, I think they're trying to transport an entire space station through the portal. If they succeed. She didn't need to finish the thought. A 12-kilometer space station appearing without warning in Earth's solar system could wipe out humanity's home world before the defense fleets could react. The stakes had just become existential, not just for Earth, but for the entire human species. All hands, this is the captain, Voss announced over the ship's internal communications. In approximately 4 hours, we will engage a target that represents an existential threat to our species. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and operating in the heart of enemy territory with no hope of reinforcement or rescue. By every rational calculation, this mission should be impossible. He paused, looking around the bridge at the faces of his crew, men and women who had volunteered for the darkness, who had chosen to fight a war that history would never record. But we are not rational beings. We are human beings, and we have never let impossible odds stop us from protecting those we love. Today, we remind the galaxy why our enemies fear us. Today, we show them that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our ships, it's our refusal to surrender when everything we hold dear is at stake. As the Blueshift accelerated toward her destiny, riding in the shadow of a weaponized asteroid, 47 humans prepared to fight the most important battle in the history of their species. The asteroid Alpha 7 screamed through Rigel 7's atmosphere like the fist of an angry god, its metallic surface glowing white-hot as friction tore away layers of ancient rock. The Covenant defense fleets scrambled to intercept the massive projectile, their plasma lances and antimatter beams carving chunks from its surface but unable to significantly alter its trajectory. The Blueshift followed in the asteroid's wake, her stealth field fluctuating under the stress of atmospheric entry. Impact in 40 seconds, Zara announced, her voice steady despite the violent shaking as their ship rode the atmospheric shockwave. The planet's surface rushed up to meet them, a landscape of crystalline spires and biomechanical facilities that defied human understanding of architecture. Thorn's targeting systems locked onto the central research complex, a massive structure that pulsed with interdimensional energy. The quantum torpedoes were armed and ready, their exotic matter warheads calibrated to create a cascading failure in whatever dimensional technology the Covenant had constructed. Alpha 7 struck the planet's northern continent with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The impact crater expanded outward in a perfect circle of destruction, sending shockwaves through the planet's crust and devastating everything within a 50-kilometer radius. The Covenant forces, caught completely off guard by the kinetic strike, struggled to coordinate their response as communication networks failed and defensive positions crumbled. Now! Voss commanded, and the Blueshift dropped her stealth field, appearing like a wraith materializing from nightmare. Her plasma cannons opened fire immediately, carving through the confused alien defenders with surgical precision. Thorn's fingers danced across his controls as he selected targets, prioritizing the defensive platforms that could threaten their approach. Dr. Hilara Vasquez's sensors detected massive quantum fluctuations from the research facility. Captain, the portal is still active. The impact damaged their control systems, but the dimensional matrix is holding. They're still trying to bring something through. Mikhail's voice crackled over the comm from engineering. Power systems at 60% and falling. The atmospheric entry burned out half our dark matter conduits. We've got maybe 10 minutes of full combat power before we're running on emergency reserves. The Blueshift dove toward the research facility like a striking hawk, her hull scarred by defensive fire but her weapons still functional. Around them, Covenant fighters swarmed like angry insects, their crystalline hulls reflecting the explosions that lit up the sky. Kofi Asante's defensive teams worked frantically to keep the ship's shields operational as enemy fire found its mark with increasing frequency. Quantum torpedoes away! Thorn announced, and 12 exotic matter warheads streaked toward their target. The research facility's defensive screens flared as the weapon struck, each detonation creating ripples in spacetime itself. But the structure held, its alien architecture proving more resilient than human technology could account for. Nia Chen's console erupted in alarms as she detected massive power fluctuations from the facility. "Captain, something's coming through the portal. Energy signatures are off the charts." On the main display, a section of empty space above the research facility began to fold in on itself, reality bending like heated metal as a dimensional gateway tore open. Through the rift, they caught glimpses of something vast and dark, the leading edge of the space station that the Covenant was attempting to transport across the galaxy. "All remaining weapons, concentrate fire on the portal matrix," Voss ordered, desperation creeping into his voice. If that space station made it through the gateway, if the Covenant could deploy their forces anywhere in the galaxy without warning, then humanity's scattered colonies would be swept away like leaves in a hurricane. The Blueshift's remaining missiles and plasma bolts converged on the facility's central spire, where massive crystalline arrays focused dimensional energies into a stable gateway. The alien structure groaned under the assault, its exotic matter conduits overloading as human weapons disrupted the delicate quantum balance. But it wasn't enough. The space station continued to emerge from the dimensional rift, its weapons systems already online and targeting the human ship. Voss realized with crystalline clarity that they had only one option left, one final card to play in this cosmic poker game. "Mikhail," he said quietly, "prepare to overload the dark matter drive." The engineering chief's voice came back tight with understanding. "Captain, if we destabilize the containment fields while we're this close to an active dimensional portal." "I know," Voss replied. "All hands, abandon ship." "Repeat, all hands abandon ship. This is not a drill." Around the bridge, his crew turned to stare at him with expressions of disbelief and determination. Zara was the first to speak, her voice steady and sure. "With respect, Captain, we're not going anywhere. If this is humanity's last stand, then we make it together." One by one, the others nodded their agreement. Thorn's scarred hands never left his weapon's controls. Ilara continued monitoring the portal's quantum instabilities. Nia maintained her communication protocols. Kofi coordinated the ship's defenses. They were going to ride the Blueshift into whatever hell awaited them. "Then God help us all," Voss whispered, and gave the order that would either save humanity or damn them all to oblivion. The Blueshift's dark matter drive shrieked like a dying star as Mikhail Petrov systematically dismantled every safety protocol that kept it stable. In engineering, warning lights painted everything in hellish red as exotic matter containment fields fluctuated beyond safe parameters. The ship shuddered around them, her hull plates groaning under stresses that no human vessel had ever been designed to endure. "Containment failure in 90 seconds, Mikhail reported, his voice surprisingly calm as he watched the readouts climb toward catastrophic levels. "Captain, once we cross the threshold, there's no going back. The cascade reaction will create a localized singularity." On the bridge, Voss watched the Covenant space station continue its emergence from the dimensional portal. Already, weapons platforms the size of city blocks were sliding through the rift, their alien geometries promising destruction on a scale that defied comprehension. If that station completed its transition, if it deployed its forces to attack human worlds, the war would be over in a matter of weeks. Dr. Ilara Vasquez's instruments detected quantum resonance patterns between the Blueshift's overloading drive and the dimensional portal's energy matrix. The two exotic systems were beginning to interact in ways that her physics training had never covered, creating feedback loops that amplified both reactions exponentially. "Captain," she called out, her voice tight with scientific fascination and mortal terror, "the portal's dimensional field is resonating with our dark matter cascade. When our drive fails, it's going to create a standing wave in spacetime. The effects will be catastrophic," Thorn finished grimly, his weapons silent now as he watched their suicide run carry them closer to the alien facility. "We're not just going to destroy the portal, we're going to tear a hole in reality itself." Nia Chen's communications array had gone silent as the electromagnetic pulse from their failing drive disrupted all electronic systems. But in the last coherent transmission she'd intercepted, she heard something that made her blood run cold. The Covenant was trying to abandon the facility, evacuating their personnel through emergency portals to other dimensions. "Captain," she reported, "they know what's coming. They're running." Zara Katri plotted their final approach vector with the precision of an artist painting her masterpiece. There would be no escape pods, no last-minute rescue, no dramatic survival against impossible odds. This was an ending written in quantum fire and exotic matter, and she was determined to make it count. The space station continued to emerge from the dimensional rift, its massive bulk now half materialized in normal space. Weapons systems that could glass entire continents were coming online, targeting solutions being calculated for Earth's major population centers. In the command center of that alien dreadnought, beings of crystalline intelligence prepared to deliver the final blow against humanity's resistance. But they had not counted on the fury of a cornered species. They had not anticipated the lengths to which humans would go to protect their own. They had not understood that sometimes, victory required the ultimate sacrifice. 30 seconds to cascade failure, Mikhail announced. Around him, his engineering team had refused evacuation orders, choosing instead to ensure that their sacrifice would not be in vain. They monitored the exotic matter reaction with the dedication of priests tending a sacred flame, guiding it toward the precise moment of maximum destructive potential. Kofi Asante moved through the ship's corridors one final time, checking on crew members who had remained at their posts despite the evacuation order. In every compartment, he found men and women who had chosen duty over survival, who had decided that some things were worth dying for. The security chief felt a pride that transcended his own mortality as he witnessed the finest qualities of his species on display. 10 seconds, Mikhail called out. 5, 4, 3, 2. The Blueshift's dark matter drive collapsed into quantum foam, releasing energies that had been locked away since the universe's first moments. The containment failure propagated through the ship's exotic matter systems like wildfire, creating a cascade reaction that bent spacetime around them into impossible geometries. The dimensional portal's energy matrix, already strained by the massive space station's transition, resonated with the collapsing drive field. Quantum feedback loops formed between the two systems, amplifying the destruction until reality itself began to tear at the seams. Captain Lysander Voss stood on his bridge as his ship died around him, watching the viewscreen fill with light that existed beyond the normal spectrum. In those final moments, he thought of Earth's blue skies and humanity's endless capacity for both creation and destruction. He thought of the children playing in Sol's orbital colonies, unaware that their future had been secured by 47 ghosts who chose to burn themselves out rather than watch their species fall to alien tyranny. The Blueshift ceased to exist in a flash of quantum fire, her sacrifice creating a wound in spacetime that swallowed the dimensional portal, the emerging space station, and a significant portion of Rigel 7's surface. The explosion propagated through multiple dimensions simultaneously, collapsing the Covenant's portal network and stranding their invasion forces in the spaces between worlds. In the silence that followed, only the stars remained to witness what had been done in humanity's name. 3 months after the Rigel 7 incident, as the Covenant historians would eventually call it, Dr. Elena Vasquez, a different Elena Vasquez, this one working in the Xenoarchaeology department of Earth's Luna University, stood before a classified briefing room filled with Earth Command's highest-ranking officials. The data she presented painted a picture of devastation that exceeded their most optimistic projections. The quantum cascade triggered by the SC Blueshift's sacrifice didn't just destroy the dimensional portal, she explained, her voice clinical despite the magnitude of what she described. It created a permanent rift in spacetime that has made dimensional manipulation technology impossible within a 12-light-year radius of the Rigel system. The Covenant's entire portal network has been rendered inoperable. Admiral Chen Nakamura, Earth's highest-ranking military officer, studied the holographic displays with the expression of a man witnessing a miracle he couldn't quite bring himself to believe. And their invasion fleet? Scattered across 17 different dimensions, with no way to return to normal space, Elena replied. Our intelligence suggests that nearly 40% of the Covenant's military assets were caught in the cascade. They're not just defeated, they're stranded. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Great War of Orion's Edge, which had seemed hopeless just months before, had turned in humanity's favor with a single desperate act by a ship that officially had never existed. But the victory had come at a price that weighed heavily on everyone present. The crew of the Blueshift, Admiral Nakamura said quietly. Their families will be told that they died in a classified operation that helped turn the tide of the war. That's all we can give them. On Kepler Station, at the edge of human space, Commander Zara Katri's younger sister Priya received a simple message informing her that her sister had died in service to humanity. There were no details, no explanations, no recognition of the sacrifice that had saved billions of lives. Priya stood in her apartment overlooking Kepler's artificial sunset, wondering what secret mission had claimed the sister who had taught her to navigate by the stars. In the orbital shipyards above Europa, Chief Engineer Mikhail Petrov's wife Katerina continued her work on humanity's newest stealth vessels, unaware that her husband's final act had revolutionized dark matter drive technology. The data from the Blueshift's destruction had led to breakthroughs that would make the next generation of ghost ships even more effective against alien targets. The war continued, but its character had fundamentally changed. Without their dimensional portal network, the Covenant found themselves fighting a conventional conflict against an enemy that specialized in asymmetric warfare. Human strike teams appeared from nowhere to hit supply lines and command centers, fading back into the darkness before reinforcements could arrive. The aliens who had once seemed invincible found themselves haunted by shadows they couldn't catch. But in the deepest levels of Earth Command's archives, in files that would remain classified for centuries, the true story of the Blueshift's final mission lived on. Technical specifications for impossible weapons, sensor recordings of quantum cascades that violated known physics, and the personal logs of 47 individuals who had chosen extinction over surrender. Captain Lysander Voss's final entry, transmitted in the microseconds before the ship's destruction, contained only a few lines: "The darkness between stars is not empty. It is filled with the ghosts of those who chose to light candles rather than curse the void. We go now to join them, secure in the knowledge that humanity will endure." Dr. Elena Vasquez closed her presentation file and looked around the briefing room at the faces of men and women who would carry the burden of this secret for the rest of their lives. The Blueshift had saved them all, but salvation had come at the cost of becoming the very ghosts they had spent the war embodying. "There is one more thing," she said quietly. "The quantum signature of the Rigel cascade. It's still detectable with our most sensitive instruments. Sometimes, on the very edge of our sensors, we pick up what appear to be ghost signals, transmission fragments that match the Blueshift's communication protocols." "Impossible," Admiral Nakamura said. "The ship was completely destroyed. There's nothing left." Elena nodded, but her expression remained troubled. "That's what the physics say. But the signals are there, broadcasting on emergency frequencies that only Earth Command uses. They come in short bursts, usually containing star charts and tactical data about Covenant movements. We've verified several of the intelligence reports, they're accurate." The room fell silent again as each person present contemplated the implications. Perhaps it was equipment malfunction, random noise that their pattern recognition systems interpreted as meaningful data. Perhaps it was wishful thinking, the desire to believe that their fallen heroes had found a way to continue their mission beyond death. Or perhaps, in the strange quantum realm between dimensions, the crew of the SC Blueshift continued their silent offensive against the enemies of humanity, transformed by their sacrifice into something beyond life and death, eternal guardians watching over the species they had died to protect. In the darkness between stars, where physics broke down and the impossible became merely improbable, 47 ghosts kept their eternal vigil, proof that some lights never truly die, they just learn to shine in different spectrums, visible only to those who know how to look for them in the vast and terrible beauty of the cosmic void.